Welcome to another real-time strategy top 10 video. In this video, I will be discussing a few factions that need an update in Total War Warhammer 2. Most of the factions in this list, if not all, are not major starting factions. I am not discussing factions that need buffing or nerfing. I am discussing factions that need to be updated to be more in line with their lore, history, units, and properly fill their place in the old world. So no updates to a specific unit's numbers and stats will be present in this video. After playing the game, and being a fan of Total War Warhammer lore for so many years, I've noticed a lot of things that could be updated to give the game and its factions more of a unique feeling and to bring them closer to their actual presence in the history of the old world. Currently, many of the minor factions are cookie cutter copy and paste versions of the major starting factions, where in actuality this shouldn't be the case at all. So I've listed 10 of them that I feel need an update the most. With that said, I hope you enjoy the video. The best way for you to show your support is by subscribing to my channel. I have weekly Warhammer content ranging from top 10s, gameplay, lore and history videos. If you enjoy listening to someone outline a specific faction or character's lore, then please click subscribe to join in the fun and make my day. Remember that this is just my opinion, and I would love for you to share yours below in the comments. I love how passionate you all are about the Warhammer world and enjoy reading your discussions. Now, starting off our list is an Empire faction that many Wood Elf players would be familiar with, mostly due to their ports. Number 10. Estalia. Once invaded by Araby, Estalia is currently a carbon copy of the Empire faction, just in different colours. They claim to be the first humans to settle the old world, though many ignore this claim. They are politically divided into many smaller factions due to no ruling government, but currently in the game they are just another block of differently named Empire men when they should be smaller provinces split across the region. They have very hardy castles and fortresses as they are newer builds than their northern cousins. They are continuously pestered by Skaven, which should also be apparent in the region. Skaven Blight is currently around the area, but with no starting faction legendary lord starting there, it seems like a lost opportunity. They are at number 10 because they aren't that different than what they are currently, but they could be much more, and actually follow their lore a bit closer. So I believe these guys should have an update. Number 9. Vampire Coasts. At number 9 on my list is the Vampire Coasts faction. In the lore they are basically undead pirates of the Caribbean. They were mostly originally Norscans who died and were risen again in undeath due to Luthor Harkon residing inside a coffin the Norscans had stolen from an Imperial trade ship. They are allies with Sirens, have a complete naval presence in their region, and are raiders, murderers and pillagers of the New World. Having undead pirates would be incredible, but they aren't that. Vampire Coasts are just another Vampire Counts faction with no hint of their origin or lore anywhere to be found. Please update them to make them petty raiders with undead free militia companies, cannons, sirens and a pescal naval presence, as they should be. Number 8. Clan Eshin. Skaven clans in general need an update. I go into this more later in my list, but at number 8 is Clan Eshin. Currently, if you come across a Skaven Clan Eshin army, you can expect the same armies as other Skaven clans: slaves, slingers, ogres and so on. However, it should be that if you are facing an army of Clan Eshin, you should expect lots of death runners, sneaky tactics and your general to be assassinated before you even get to deploy. There is a lack of variety in many of the clans, one which is noticeable for anyone who wanted a bit more individual diversity in the factions. But Eshin especially should be a unique challenge, but it simply isn't. This faction needs an update, especially since they are one of the 4 great clans. Number 7. Chaos. With Creative Assembly leaving Chaos for the 3rd installment of the game, this is only number 7 on my list because this update is inevitably coming, but it's still worth mentioning. Chaos is such a varied faction, as varied as the Chaos Gods themselves, but currently there are no real differences in the Chaos faction. It is one of the most varied factions available in the lore and history of Warhammer, 4 different avenues to go down, each with their own unique traits, units and heroes. There are no units that look like they belong to Nurgle, Khorne, Slaanesh or Tzeentch, bar a few heroes and sorcerers. Just chaos undivided forces with no unique god backing them. When the update comes for this one, it will truly be a force to be reckoned with, and one that will bring much variety and colour to the battlefield. Number 6. The Necrarch Brotherhood. South of Cetra lives the Necrarch Brotherhood, the most learned of the vampire race. Known to be more powerful with spells than swords, unlike their von Karstein kin. This power of the winds of magic comes at a price, however. They are disfigured, ugly creatures with an appearance so hideous that no man can gaze upon them unaffected. The father of the vampires, Wisoran, lives in the land of the dead and was truly faithful to Nagash in life and death. Just like the Vampire Coast faction, the Necrarch Brotherhood are yet again just a cookie-cutter copy and paste of the von Karstein-esque vampire faction. The Necrarch Brotherhood should have very powerful magic and be hard to negotiate with in diplomacy due to their madness and distrust of all. Their leaders should also cause terror to fit in with their history. This faction needs an update to give the original vampires a bit of love and to give the Tomb Kings a more unique vampire faction to face. Number 5. Tilea. One of the wealthiest provinces in the old world, known for their trade, the Tileans pride themselves on cultural advancement and wealth. They are not a military might by any means, but are definitely a trade juggernaut in the old world. So you would think that Tilea is the faction you want to do trade with and speed towards, not the High Elves of Ulthuan. But currently that is not the case. Tilea is a province filled with wealthy merchants, trade ships and mercenaries. Because of their wealth, they can afford to buy out many Dogs of War units to fight their rivals and trade competition. So when a Tilean army is on the map, it should be filled with a random assortment of men, elves, dwarves and ogres, all fighting for coin. But it is yet again another army filled with Empire soldiers, cannons and pistoliers. Tilea should be a great unique human faction, one that sends rogue armies out against you in return for a bad trade deal, or taking out one of their biggest trade partners. Not just another human Empire faction. I feel like this one needs a bit of an update. Number 4. The Northern Dwarven Kingdoms, Kraka, or the Norse Dwarves. Usually a quick faction to disappear from the epic roster of faction names at the end of a turn, the Northern Dwarven Kingdoms have a hard start as they are pinned between Norsca and Chaos, with Kislev to the south. They have been separated from their brethren for over 7,000 years. They have been fighting for just as long and have some of the toughest strongholds in the old world. Many slayers travel up north to fight the many monsters, giants and dragons that roam their lands. So this faction should be a hard challenge to dig out of their fortifications, and have a plethora of wide-eyed, orange-haired dwarven slayers accompanying them into battle. Drak should be a hard-fought battle, but a worthy one, as it stands on the biggest sapphire, silver and iron deposits in the old world. With a harbour nearby, it should be a huge target for trade factions. This faction should be tougher, slower, and be more of a brick wall than their southern cousins, and have buffs against monsters and chaos forces due to their 7,000 years of experience fighting them. A nice faction to update. Number 3. Clan Skyre. There are many Skaven clans on the game map, both warlord clans and great clans. Most recently, Clan Rictus was included in the game with Tretch Craventail leading the clan. I've already mentioned Clan Eshin earlier in this list, but there are also Skyre, Septic and Moulder and the Greyseers. In the lore and tabletop, each clan has a speciality and special units. Pestilence is all about the Plague Monks and Plague Censors. Moors is the frontline meat shield warrior clan famous for their storm vermin. But this doesn't shine through in the game at all. All Skaven have all units and are just generic ratmen. They may as well be just generic clans at the moment. But in reality, facing a Clan Skyre army would be a real challenge. This clan is famous for their technology and abuse of warpstone machinery. So when facing a Clan Skyre army, you should expect warp lightning cannons, warp throwers, warp lock engineers and lots of doom wheels, not hordes of Skaven slaves, plague catapults and storm vermin. This AI faction needs to be updated to show their actual clan's units, weaponry and ideals. Instead of the same Skaven armies in all clans, this would open variety to specific clan armies you face. Skyre is one of these, and it's higher on my list because of the challenge they would create. Why can't Skaven clans be like the Night Goblins and Skarsnik, where you can only recruit certain Skaven units until you take a certain settlement, where you get buffs and upkeep reductions for the clan's specific units? An update that would definitely give more variety to the base game and Skaven in general. Number 2. Norska. Why haven't these been added into Total War Warhammer 2 yet? For a year, players of the first installment faced giant blobs of Marauder infantry, chariots, and the dreaded Marauder horseman spam. Then Norska finally gets released with one of the coolest unit rosters to date just before the second installment of the game. Then back to square one in Warhammer 2, when the Mortal Empires campaign was released. Back to giant blobs of Marauder spam, chariot spam, and horseman spam. This faction needs updating in the second game. All the assets are there, they just need to implement them into it. This one is extra frustrating because we know how good and fun this faction can be to play and play against, but this is becoming a distant memory, unless you want to hop between the two games, which completely defeats the purpose of the Mortal Empires campaign. Norska needs an update. Surtha Ek needs to have more than axe-throwing horsemen again. This update is coming on May 10th granted, so at least we know it's coming soon, but it doesn't take away the frustration. Number 1. Kislev. The front line of civilization, the Empire, and the faction that takes the burden of the first waves of Chaos Hordes decade after decade. This faction is noticeably absent from the game, and has been many on the fans' minds as to where these polar bear riding stoic men of men will be included into the game. A line from Lord of the Rings suits Kislev perfectly. By the blood of our people are your lands safe. And this epitomizes the faction's place in the world. They are the first wall Chaos breaks upon in the end times and in previous Chaos invasions. They defend their lands and the lands of all those southern kingdoms with their own unique units, magic, heroes, monsters and cavalry. They would make an incredible faction to update with its proper roster. Instead, they are currently in the same pit as many other human Empire factions. Generic Holy Roman Empire-esque armoured soldiers armed with muskets and pointy moustaches. Kislev deserves some love. They would be a great starting challenge for Norska and Chaos Army campaign starts, and would help differentiate the giant blob of human factions that takes up so much of the map in the mainland Warhammer world. Free LC, paid DLC, whatever way, it would be great for them to be included. This is the faction that needs updating the most. And that's my list. Thank you for making it this far. As a thanks, my honourable mentions were Araby, Midland and the Border Princes. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel to make my day and let me know what faction you would like to be updated the most. I will see you next time.